Good morning. Before I get into today's talk, I would like to direct your attention out that window there. More importantly, to the labyrinth site outside the window. All day, Friday and yesterday, our awesome board president, Ulf Israel's son, and my darling Mike, they've been working tirelessly from early morning until after dark with a big tractor thingy. What is that called? What is it? It's not a tractor. A skid steer. I would never have even guessed at that. And our beautiful board secretary, Mona Ross, who, if you don't know, she is the driving force of intention and manifestation behind the whole idea of a labyrinth. She spent most of her time right here with them this weekend serving as, I'm calling you foreman, okay? Because the foreman, if I understand this correctly, the foreman no longer have to do the, right? Okay, so she was the foreman, and she was also the supervisor, the gopher, and the cheerleader. The ground out there is clear with the exception of a little section of bushes right there in the front, and it is level-ish. I know that's a work in progress that they were frustrated with yesterday, but it is ready to begin placing the bricks for our retaining wall. So can we please make some noise to show our gratitude and excitement for all that we did? Yeah, he's still, well, did you see what I did? The Tonka truck, I was like, yeah, he was thrilled to be in that thing. Did you have fun too? Right, yes, okay. See, and they said to me, you should come and drive it. And I thought, that might be a bad idea. Because the boys understand these things, I might have created a problem. So I stayed home and I worked on things. So let's get into these things. I'm gonna confess here that I started out doing a completely different talk. I sat down and I began writing last night. And it was going okay, but it just wasn't feeling right. I was thinking too hard. And that is not how it's supposed to work. Hey, fortunately, I recognize that only 5 or so pages in. So I didn't have to completely reinvent the metaphorical wheel in order to talk to you today about an entirely different metaphorical wheel. So I opened up a new document in Word and I took a deep breath and I relaxed and I stopped thinking and started listening. And together we will see what happens when I stop thinking. And I have a feeling that we'll both be surprised. I have finished it since then, so I will be far less surprised. I spent this whole week open to whatever wheel inspiration drifted through my mind. For those of you who are wondering what I'm talking about, this is talk 2 of 5 on the idea of the sacred wheel. Okay, we move from talk 5 into the hoop, then the web, then the circle, then the one. So 5 topics, 5 talks each. So last week, the potter's wheel came up. And it was echoed in our reading from earlier today, right? Well, this week, all week long, the idea of a spinning wheel was in my mind. Not the casino kind, although I will not rule out the possibility that those wheels won't find their way into one of these talks along the way. But this week, it's the kind that they use to turn fluffy fibers into yarn or thread. Okay, I tried to go in a different direction for the wheel. Believe me, I did, because it didn't seem very sacred to me. But Spirit had other plans. So the spinning wheel stayed right there in my consciousness all week, humming quietly, but Not appropriately musically, because the thing that played alongside that mental image had nothing to do with this kind of wheel. Some of you will know this song, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, right? What goes up must come down, spinning wheel, got to go round. And I kept asking, why? Why a spinning wheel? I mean, a pottery wheel, that makes sense as a sacred symbol, right? We are clay in the hands of the divine. But what does a spinning wheel have to do with matters of the divine? Well, the answer didn't come in words, it came in stories. But being who I am, I ignored the stories in my brain, and I went spelunking into biblical significance, right? Because after all, what is a good church talk without some Bible-y stuff thrown in? So I discovered that it is used as a biblical symbol in a few ways. In both Proverbs and Exodus, the spinning of thread and yarn is used to describe the industriousness of women and to give them some significance in culture at the time. I had to deal with that for a minute. It is something I wasn't thrilled about, giving women significance in society based solely on their domestic skills, but I do understand that those were very, very different times. It is amazing how many ways some perspectives change over the course of a few thousand years. Yes, a few thousand it took. But there's something I noticed that didn't come up in my Google search as I investigated the questions that I had about spinning thread in biblical times. In several passages in both the Old and the New Testaments, the weaving of fine linens and rich colors used in fabrics to adorn tabernacles and temples and the vestments of people considered to be significantly, spiritually significant, that was noted. And this, to me, spoke to the understanding that both masculine and feminine attributes were important in faith. In other words, we are all necessary for the divine to be complete. Does this speak to where we're going today? We'll both find out. But once I stopped spelunking into Bible threads, the question remained, why the spinning wheel? And I finally started to pay attention to the stories that I'd been ignoring all week, which really were there, and I did really ignore them. Spirit was trying to give them to me all along, and you're going to remember the first story. Okay, a frightened young woman is told that she must spin straw into gold or lose everything she loves. And a mysterious little man appears, Rumpelstiltskin, and he says, "I'll do it for you, but it'll cost you something precious." The room fills with the sound of the wheel turning round and round, straw into gold, and when the morning comes, she's saved. For now, because the man who told her to spin, who locked her in that room full of straw, believes that she did it all on her own, and he demands more. And so it goes, night after night. She is forced to spin more and more and more straw into gold, and she's brought bigger and bigger mountains of straw each night, and the little man comes each time, never leaving a single piece of straw unspun. Finally, the rich man decides he's going to marry this girl, and she believes that she's saved. But the bargain stands. She must give her most precious gift away to the little man. But then he gives her a way out, and in the end, she's only freed when she speaks his name. When she brings the hidden, nameless force into the light of awareness. Spirit showed me this. Each of us has our own Rumpelstiltskin, some hidden part of the psyche that knows how to create, but it doesn't realize that it does so in fear, in secrecy, in separation. We make bargains with anxiety, with control, with our need to be approved of. If I can just produce enough metaphorical gold, we tell ourselves in all sorts of different words, I'll be safe, I'll be loved, I'll be happy. And we spin, never getting to where we actually feel safe or loved because we spin in fear, in lack. But there comes a moment when we can name that energy to say, I see you, fear. I see you striving. And in that naming, we reclaim the creative process. Not through massive effort, but through awareness. We choose to silence fear and to use love to do the spinning. We name the fear and we free ourselves from doubt and darkness of thought. And then we knowingly, intentionally, mindfully create the life that we want. Because the truth is, and this is the truth, we are creating every moment of every day. With every thought, every belief, no matter how great or how small. Imagine what life would be like if we used that and created with purpose. Because it isn't wrong to want to spin life into gold. It's just painful when we forget that the source of that gold isn't out there to be gathered. It's already within us. Now, as I sat with that story, the little straw to gold experiment, another spinning wheel started showing up in my mind. This time it was in a castle, not a cottage. And it was a young woman again, this time a princess named Aurora, who came across a spindle she wasn't supposed to touch. And when she did, when curiosity drew her finger to that tiny point, she was pricked. And she fell into a deep sleep, and so did the whole kingdom. Everything that had been alive and busy, every servant, every bird, every little bit of wind, it fell still. Until, and I quote, true love's kiss awakened her. And Disney did a wonderful job of making little girls and boys dream of being princesses and princes when they animated that story, right? We all wanted our prince or princess of true love to come. But I see it differently now. Maybe I saw it that way as a child, but now I don't think that story is about romance at all. I think it's about consciousness. That little prick of the spindle, that moment when we believe that we are separate from God, separate from each other. It's all those painful moments when we believe that we are all alone, a single soul in a body who doesn't matter to anyone but ourselves. And maybe not so much even to ourselves sometimes, if we're really being honest, right? That little spindle of individuality, of isolation in a jar that we call a body. It seems tiny, but it's sharp. And in this context, it is very, very real to all of us. One small thought of unworthiness. One quiet whisper of, I am not enough, and we fall asleep to who we truly are. And the whole kingdom within us falls asleep too. Our creativity, our joy, our peace, our compassion, everything dozing under a blanket of forgetfulness. But if that analogy is true, then what's the meaning of true love's kiss? Love's kiss is not something that comes from the outside. It's the moment we remember who we really are. When love itself, that presence within, leans down and says, wake up, beloved child, you've been sleeping, you've been dreaming. And suddenly the wheel starts turning again. Our world awakens with our realization of creativity. Not in fear this time, but in harmony. The spinning wheel in both stories is what Isaiah talked about in our inspirational reading this morning. That singular creative force that creates light and darkness, peace and hardship. It's the wheel of the divine moving through every single phase of our becoming. Sometimes we're spinning straw into gold, learning to create consciously. Sometimes we are pricked by that spindle and we fall asleep for a while, but through it all, the wheel keeps turning, spinning our experiences into wisdom, our dreams into awakening. Ernest Holmes said, "Find me one person who can get their own littleness out of the way, and he shall reveal to me the immeasurable magnitude of the universe." That's what happens when we wake up at the wheel, so to speak. When we stop bargaining with fear and start partnering with love. Charles Fillmore reminded us that punishment isn't imposed by God. It is self-inflicted by false thought. That's not the curse. It's not a spell cast upon us, but it's the illusion we cast upon ourselves. And the moment that we align with truth, just like that, the kingdom awakens. So how do we use this in real life? How does this apply? How does it work? We pause. We breathe. We notice what thread we're spinning in this moment. Is it fear? Is it obligation? Or is it love? Every thought we think feeds the wheel. Every emotion is a fiber waiting to be transformed. And every time we remember that we are the ones through whom the divine spins, we wake up a little bit more. So take the week ahead as an invitation to stay awake at the wheel. When something pricks you, an irritation or worry, a disappointment, a stress, don't fall back asleep. Let love kiss you awake. Let awareness do the spinning. That's where all this spinning wheel business has been leading, not just to fairy tale gold, but to real transformation, because spiritual law isn't abstract. It wants to be lived. It wants to take shape in our hands, in our community, in the everyday rhythm of breath and heartbeat. I'm sure you've all noticed this beautiful wheel up here. To me, that is the embodied symbol of everything that we've been talking about. Yes, it speaks to the gold that Rumpelstiltskin spun, but what it really speaks to is that golden thread of oneness that runs through all creation. We used that physical representation of that 2 weeks ago in our closing ceremony of the last series. Do you remember? Yeah? We used it in today's meditation. We are all connected to everyone and everything all the time. The gold ribbon covering this wheel reminds us that we are never alone. We're never solitary, but always connected in a circle that never ends. The turning of spirit through our lives. And beginning today, we're going to make it come alive. Each day, once, twice, as often as you feel moved, write down something that you're grateful for. Big things, small things, silly things, especially those maybe. Holy things. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to read them but you. Just write them down and bring them with you. And then you come back and you tuck that little note carefully between the golden ribbons. I'm going to say here that there's enough ribbon on there to wrap around the sanctuary a few times. And it was not easy to get it all in place. And I would really rather not do it all again. So watch Mike. He's going to demonstrate. You don't have to move the ribbon to put your thing in. You hold your paper flat and you just slip it between the folds. Go, Vanna. Ta-da! Let your gratitude become the body of this wheel. Over the coming weeks, it will fill, slip by slip, until it, maybe not physically, but spiritually glows with the collective thanks of this whole community. It will become sort of a living evidence that gratitude is the first motion of creation. It's the first turning of the wheel. It is that impulse, that conduit through which everything travels. Because when we give thanks, we acknowledge that the good we seek already exists. Does that make sense? Gratitude is the turn of the wheel that starts everything moving. Look at it again. Okay, it's circular, layered, radiant. This is the wheel of becoming, and you will understand more about what that means as the weeks continue. Each shelf hidden within, there are two. So if you're familiar with the Science of Mind emblem, you'll have an idea of what lies under the gold there. But each one of those shelves is representative of a realm of consciousness. Each ribbon is a thread of connection. Each slip of paper is a spark of intention. It reminds us that creation doesn't happen once. It happens continuously through cycles and cycles of awareness and love. And every grateful thought spins another thread of gold through that fabric of our shared life. And here's a secret. This is only the beginning. Okay? We're going to keep building this particular practice. It is going to change shape. It's going to change intention. We are going to continue going all the way through into February, which is why I don't want to lace the ribbon around it again. You see? This is going to become a visible mirror of how spirit works through us. This will serve as proof that it works. Stay with me, you'll find out, okay? So, for now, all you need to do is begin with gratitude. That's it. This will be proof that everything that I stand up here and say is real, and you're going to do it. It is yours to do. So as you leave today, I invite you to pause at the wheel. There is some paper available in the back, and I've left some up here on the floor. If you don't want to bend down, I'm sure somebody nimble will do that for you. And it looks like there's still a pen there. You can even, you know what? I'm going to take this out of here. I will take this out of here. The meditation paper is there too. So if you need more paper, use this. I'm not using it after this. It's all yours. You can tear little slips if you have to, but write down your thanks, or you can just hold your little slip of paper and then think of one thing, just one at a time. Think of one thing that your heart can honestly thank God for right now. Think of it until you feel that gratitude in your chest, and it begins to feel like a steady turning of a wheel. And then slip it between those golden ribbons and let it become a part of something greater. Each one of those little notes is going to whisper the same truth to the cosmos. I am awake, I am grateful, and I am a knowing part of the turning. Over time, we will see that the wheel that we thought was outside of us has been spinning inside all along. And maybe that's the whole message of the wheel. The same power that spun galaxies into being is still spinning us now. Every breath, every heartbeat, every act of kindness is another revelation of that divine motion. We don't have to make it turn. We only have to awaken to the fact that we are turning with it. So let this golden wheel remind you, every time you see it glint in the light, that the gold you seek isn't a ribbon or the paper or even the stories. It's you. You are the golden thread. You are the living light of God, weaving itself through creation. And together, as we awaken, the whole world begins to shine. And so it is.